All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on the Landscaping Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Zach Small, but we do not have Shay next to me today. Right now, we've got our repeat guest, Mr. Landon Griffin. Landon, what's up, man?
What's up, Zach? How you doing?
Good to have you on. So Landon's going to have me in the hot seat today because he has a few questions he wanted to ask. This started out as an idea that I had wondering, Shay and I were talking about what questions do we have about the industry or do we think what's going on? And we realized who better to ask than the person who's freshest into the industry. And so we wanted Landon to ask us the questions. And Shay conveniently has a meeting right now, and so I'm in the hot seat, where Landon can ask all the questions he had coming to Landscaping Unlimited or the green industry at large. And so we've had a few we've touched on, but I have no idea really what he's throwing my way. So Landon is now got the steering wheel, and he will be driving the rest of this podcast. So go ahead, brother.
All right, Zach, I got a few written down on my phone for you. So what does Landscaping Unlimited specialize in compared to other local companies?
So I think what we specialize in compared to other ones, is our ability and the breadth of the work that we can do. We're a very large company, so we run 20 plus at our peak season. We do hardscape and we do landscape. We do contracts where we have creeks being cleared out for fish that need to go spawn somewhere, as well as the patios, ECU brick walkways. We do everything. We've had school contracts in the past. We have major mowing contracts currently. And so we don't just mow, we don't just hardscape, and we don't just do, what's expected around a homeowner's property. It's commercial, it's retail, it's everything in between. And I think that sets us apart because some people specialize in one aspect of it where we do it all. And the slogan, possibilities are unlimited. If it's outside, we can do it no matter what it is. And I think that's pretty impressive about our company.
Gotcha. What does a normal workday look like during peak season versus our slow season?
So people often refer to the slow season as winter, what we're in now. And let me ask you, have we had any slow time this winter? No.
Not at all.
So our peak season is high hardscape, high landscape work. Right now there's less landscape because it's not growing, but our guys just the other day were clearing out a marsh, and doing heavy work there, and our hardscape team hasn't stopped. And so that's just been rolling. So we don't really have a slow season. We just have a season where sometimes the landscapers help a little bit more with the hardscape crew, but we're still employing year round. And so there's that part of that answer. But there is no typical day. We can do everything. And so I would say every day we're coming on and we're saying, all right, the jobs that we were working on, we're finishing up, and then we're working on the next one. And so each day it could be the patio, it could be the hardscape. We have a foundation we're working right now. So our days change by the day, and that's actually what I love about the company is I don't think you've had a routine that since you've been here. You've been learning about this, then that, then the next thing, then go help him cut down these trees, then go help them, lay out these bricks. And so the average day is just a day of production and service to the community. But outside of that, each day is different.
That's what I love about it too. Learn something new every
You
single
don't get
day.
bored. You definitely, I'm still learning, and it's even right now on the podcast, it's another element to the business. So now we're doing something totally new where you're running a podcast.
That's right. That's right. So what do we wish more people understood about landscaping and hardscaping?
I think this is one of the things that, I think we were speaking about this a little bit ago, which is that it's a career and it's not just a fallback job. I wish more people understood that this is a position you can get in where in other industries, it's very clear to see that you join at this level and then you can get promoted to that level, and then you can get promoted to the next level. And with landscape and hardscape, people think you're just the grunt who's carrying things around, and they don't realize all the licenses you can get, the certifications you can get, the skill sets you can learn in the many different areas you can apply them in, and so looking at that, I wish more people understood that there's so much to this industry that one could make it very personally satisfying as well as financially profitable for themselves and their family. And it's not just a fallback, but it's a career. If more people understood that, I think we'd see many more applicants come into this with a greater vision as to what they wanted to do as opposed to just making a paycheck.
That's right. So what's the culture like on the crew?
Well, that depends on the crew. And so we have individuals. All right, we have individuals who love to work and not talk. We have individuals who love to laugh. I'm somewhere in the middle ground where I love to laugh. You're going to laugh a lot with me, but I'm also going to work extremely hard. And so I enjoy the work. I've not really been on the landscape side of the house, but those dudes jump out and they're like a well-oiled machine. They spread and they conquer and they divide. And so their culture, I'm sure some of those trucks, nonstop talking. You go into another part of the truck and they don't say a word. They just cruise from job to job. So speaking for myself, my part and the culture of this, business at large, we're looking to be the best at what we do, and we're looking to have a good time doing it. And you don't have to be Mr. Talkative. You don't have to be, coming out here and trying to like jump on a video and do a dance for TikTok or something. Like we're not being caricatures, but we definitely are having a good time and we're showcasing that. And so I hope people see that on our social media that we enjoy what we do. And so it's a culture of men who just want to work and want to serve our community.
There you go. Jumping around a little bit, how do we handle work in extreme heat or bad weather?
We just do it. So it's cold right now. We've got our guys building that foundation. When it's extremely hot, the guys are mowing and they're drinking more water. They have more clothes on when it's cold. This is not a job for those who are physically or mentally weak. There's no two ways about that. And it's not to really like draw a bar and be like, oh, we're the tough guys. But dude, we work in every single element out there. We work in the rain, we work in the sun, we work in the hot, the cold. We work because it has to get done. And so if you're built like that, then this is the perfect profession for you. Some people belong in an office. They do much better there. They're much more comfortable with a very set schedule and a set routine that's climate controlled. Bro, we just do what we have to do and we get the job done.
There you go. What's the hardest part of hardscaping that people don't see?
That's a great question. I think the hardest part of hardscaping is the fact that no matter how great of a job we do, we're never completely satisfied with what we did. That is a difficult part of it, is having to walk away from a job. I don't think we've ever walked away from a job where I was 100% like perfect. Because I'm like, oh, we could do this a little bit or do that, but that's eating into the owner's budget. If they could give us a couple $1,000s more, we could really do this. But once we really do that, well, a few grand more, we could go and do. And so your brain, you want to do the perfect, like to the nines in the whole property. And sometimes it's a time thing, sometimes it's a budget thing, but I think as us, we're always looking to solve and improve. And so we're never quite satisfied. We're always proud, but we're never fully satisfied, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. What tools does a new employee need to learn first?
Well, there's two ways to look at that. There's the mental tools. You've got to be able to listen. Like an athlete, you've got to be coachable on the team. And so if you're going to be a new employee here, don't come in here telling us how you did it at your old job every time that we ask you to do something differently. We want you to do it our way, and our way is the right way, which means we're not cutting any corners to speed things up. We want you to do it right the first time, as fast as you can, and as efficiently as you can. That's our perfect goal. And so for someone to do that, they've got to come in here accepting they might know how to mow a lawn or weed eat, but they don't know how to mow a lawn or weed eat the landscaping limited way. So that tool's coming in, obviously, starts between the ears. Because if you can't do that, then the rest doesn't matter. From there, we'll teach you all the tools you need to know, depending on where you go. I'm not sure how many bricks you've cut prior to being here. Have you cut any bricks since being here?
Yeah, I've cut a lot of bricks since being
here. Okay,
yeah.
So I thought so. So looking at that, it's a skill. Like you might not have cut your first brick as well as you cut your 10th brick, and your 10th brick's not going to be as good as your 100th. So we'll teach you how to cut that first one, and then as the jobs come along, you'll get better and better and better. But I never would have said when you joined, well, you got to know how to cut bricks. No, we'll teach you. We'll teach you what you need to know. From the mowing and the weeding, all the way through, but it starts between the ears. That's where we've got to win. So if you show up ready to learn, you'll crush it here.
What machines do we use most?
Again, it depends on what you're doing. My machine, I use the camera the most.
That's right.
I use my camera and my microphones the most. Obviously, our long guys, we're sitting on hustlers. These are our most reliable pieces of equipment. We've got our hardscape guys, they're riding around. We've got heavy equipment. We've got light equipment, a lot of power tools. You've got to be able to do it all. And honestly, what we use most comes down to what we're doing that day. Since I can't tell you what an average day looks like, there's no way I can tell you what the average tool use looks like. Except, like I said, we're sitting on these hustlers. These get used during growing season, man. Our guys are they're like cowboys, when they're riding their horses around the plains. These guys are just cruising everywhere, knocking everything out. It's really cool.
That's awesome. How do we train new employees to use equipment safely?
Again, we have standards in place as to how we do it. And so there's the on-the-job training, teaching. When you first get here, we issue you the earplugs and the eye protection. What we're actually creating now is Shay is recording a series of videos that's going to be emailed to all future employees. They're going to watch those videos where we explain, here's how you properly do this safely, from the mowers to the weed eaters, some of the power tools that we use. And so every employee is going to go through, watch the whole thing. They're going to sign a paper saying, I did observe this. And so even though they've observed it, we're not going to expect them to be proficient. They just know what right looks like. And then you get the on-the-job training where we're going to give you the glasses, like I said, and make sure, like, hey, wear these so the acorns or whatever you're weed eating don't shoot into your eye, the rocks. So there's a lot of explaining, a lot of on-the-job training, and then there's also going to be more information provided via these videos. And so hopefully together that keeps everybody safe.
Awesome. Do I need experience to start?
You don't need experience to start. You need experience in life enough to know that you're willing to do what it takes to continue working here. Like, you need to know this is something I want to do, because it's sort of a waste of your time and our own if you come in here and you know you hate being outside. You know, if you hate that, like, don't try to be something you aren't. Come in here knowing you at least are willing to do that kind of manual labor. You know, you don't need experience though. Like I said, does it help? For a higher position, it helps. If we're looking for a project manager, yeah, you need experience. But if you're just coming to work here and this is something that you're looking to start and get your foot in the door, then absolutely we want you to not have any bad habits. And so therefore, starting fresh with us will instill good habits from the beginning.
I got you. Well, if there is one, what's the learning curve like for someone brand new coming in?
Well, let me flip that one to you. What was the learning curve like for you when you first joined here?
I really don't think there was much of a learning curve. I first started here, I got went on the hardscape crew. A lot of those guys they brought me in. It's like a big family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We get out there, we get the job done. I've learned they teach me, they take the time to teach me, and I've learned a lot.
When I hear learning curve, I think about like, how long does it take you to become like proficient or contributing to the team? And so right out the gate, when I first started here, we were working creeks, and it literally was just muscle. I didn't have to do any advanced math. I didn't have to solve any problems. I had to carry heavy equipment deep into the woods, had to cut down logs, had to pick up heavy logs, move them out of the way, and then carry all that equipment out. And it was like a mile in, a mile out, a lot of manual labor. And so I proved myself that first 2 weeks to a month of just showing that I had the heart to get it done. So I learned quickly, if you can just like not quit, if you can just not, you'll make it through everything. And then from there, I learned the hardscape side of the house. I learned the landscape side of the house. And so it was actually harder for me to learn the mowing and the weed eating and the pine straw proper application than it was the hardscape and the bricks and everything. I thought that was it made much more sense to me to cut the bricks and put them in certain order and just the way we lay it out and build the foundation than it was to know how to keep 4 inches of mulch evenly spread, because I would always come up with hills of pot. Like I just wanted to get it in so it looked good, and I never thought about like the depth and how to maintain the depth and how to make sure that it properly sloped. And so like our landscape guys, kudos to them, because they make it look easy, but there's a lot of thought that goes into it. It took me longer to learn that than the hardscape side.
It's an art, both sides.
It is. It really is. Both of them are. I found it, because the landscape is less rigid, literally and figuratively, it was more difficult for me to learn.
How quickly can someone move up or become specialized in a specific area?
In Landscape Unlimited, it's choose your adventure. I mean, you can come out the gate, you've got to show yourself to be a hard worker. I'm not going to put a timeline on that, but once you've shown initiative, you've shown that you've got common sense, good head on your shoulders, you're a team player, you're looking to be a professional, you show up on time, you're squared away, wearing the right uniform, all that. If you can do all that, then doors are going to open and opportunities will open to where it's like, hey, do you want to learn this? Hey, would you like to come try that out? And it's just like the more you can eat and digest and like show that you're capable of doing, the more you're fed. And so for me, that's how that worked. It was like I came in here with zero experience, and like I said, I showed I could work hard. Well, then I showed I could understand why we were working the way we were working. I would ask a lot of questions, and that showed Shay that I was eager to learn. I would show up early. I would leave late. If we had like an early day because it rained, instead of asking him to go home, I would ask to see how he ran the back end of the business. And so I would be in his office not doing anything except asking questions as to why he builds this way, why he charges materials that way, why he schedules his rotation the way he does. And these were hours where he didn't have to answer that, but because I showed the initiative, he kept on feeding me. Well, I became a bigger asset to the company that way. And so if you can do that, I mean, there's no limits to how far you can go. We're looking for people, to specialize in certain areas. We've got Q, we're looking for him to take over the chemical program. We've got you, a project manager, going out into the world to someday come back to us and start running some projects. We've got our hardscape guys. We're looking for them to understand, to be able to build the patio beginning to end without any involvement from Shay. We're looking for equipment operators. We're looking for people to run our landscape crews as that expands. There's so many opportunities for people to take those spots. They just have to show they want it.
So I got some fun podcast questions for you.
I thought those were all fun.
What's the toughest job we've ever pulled off while you've been here?
The hardest job I've ever done was that marsh that I was talking to you about. Mm-hmm. It was I think it was like August. It was sinking in 2 feet of sludge the whole time. There were trees everywhere. It was thick, thick brush. We had to dig it all out, cut it all out, pull it out of that swamp. I mean, dude, at one point, like my the rate was through the roof. I was looking at Shay. I was like, dude, I'm gonna die. It is hot. And he's like, yeah, let's get some water. And so we all relaxed. So that was probably the hardest job. We've done some heavy jobs from them, but that was the hardest. The one that we pulled off that I wasn't sure we pulled off was the creeks that we cleared out for the state. That was an awesome job. We still talk about the creeks as like a rite of passage because if you weren't there, you don't get it. But it was it was interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, you find out a lot of things about yourself.
Really?
You know, you're cutting down trees from a John boat, or you're walking through a swamp, or you're just like wet, waist deep in water, just hoping like your next step isn't like a foot drop where you're gonna like disappear. And you got chainsaws while you're doing all this, but you cleared it all out. And that was a very difficult job that I absolutely loved every moment of because it was a challenge, and I just enjoy that. And we pulled it off, which was cool.
That's awesome. What's the most satisfying part of finishing a big project?
So when you finish the big project, it's everything coming together. And so one way to look at that is, when you clear out a bunch of dirt, like, all right, we moved some dirt. But then when you see the foundation built, you're like, cool, we put some concrete. But then you see a house built, and you're like, oh man, this is coming together. Then you see the finished house, and you do the landscape, and a family moves in, and you're watching them enjoy a property you built. And so very similar to the man cave, I would say that's my biggest project with the most satisfaction. I point out to my wife and kids every time we drive by, like, hey, I built that. Because it's so cool. Like I built this standing thing that all these groomsmen and their grooms and their groomsmen are enjoying and having a good time the night before their wedding. And I'm like, I built the home that you do that in. I built the place that you enjoy your night before you dedicate your life to the person you love. I built that.
That's awesome.
And so there's like a level of satisfaction there that's difficult to explain. But anybody that works like manual labor and they have to use their hands, like there's no cheating. It's honest. Like you have to sweat and build and make it happen. It's not like clicking a button and the computer solves it for you. This is like real world. You do it or it doesn't happen. And to do it and have it all come together after months of your work, immensely satisfying.
Very, very. What's a myth about landscaping or hardscaping you want to bust?
that landscapers and hardscapers are dumb and that they couldn't make it in college and school. That is absolutely incorrect. Every single day we are using advanced mathematics, from volume to the degrees of slope that we're using to how much we need to order. You've seen it. I don't need to keep banging that drum, but I hate that people are like, oh, well, you're going to dig ditches if you don't do this. And it's like, bro, people digging ditches are making more than some people teaching classes. And we need to not overlook that. These guys are working hard. A lot of these guys are running their own business. And so if you run your own business, you're happy and you're making money, why do we keep pretending that without your degree you're less than?
All right, one last question for you. Favorite piece of equipment and why?
Our favorite piece of equipment is the Dingo. I love the Dingo. It is I think Shay's Uncle Mike calls it a landscaping tactical assault vehicle because it does everything. It's heavy enough to be able to do some real work and move some real weight, but it's light enough to where you can go into like every place. I want that Dingo on every single job that we have because it will find a use. I have used that to dig trenches, to carry dirt, to carry stone, to level out properties. Dude, I've had it pick me up so I could go and take care of some branches. Like, there's nothing that thing can't do, and I brought it into some wild places and have been fortunate enough to always get it out of those places. And so I love that thing. And it's one of those things like where when it finally dies, I want like a shrine made to it before we get a new one. Because of how many like hours and how much work it has done for this company, it deserves a place of honor.
It does. It definitely does.
Is that your final question?
Yep.
Let me ask you this question. Since joining Landscaping Unlimited and continuing your journey to working in the green industry and becoming a project manager, have you found yourself more interested or less interested in this side of the business?
I've found myself captivated in it because I see like every aspect of it. Because I see the hardscape, I see what has to be done, and there's so much more to learn than I ever thought there was. So yes, I love this side of it.
That's awesome. That's cool. All right, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following Landon. He is our local athlete, our local podcast questionnaire, and just the new guy in the squad who's constantly a part of what it is you see us doing out there. So he's on the hardscape side, the landscape side. He's on our social media side. So the guy's everywhere. So I'll put a link to his socials below for you to check him out because he's a good one you want to support and watch his journey, especially in baseball and school, which is awesome. And obviously, if you're enjoying the conversations that we're having, be sure to subscribe to this podcast as we're going to keep it rolling. This is what we do. We're having a great time. And we're talking life, we're talking business, and sometimes we're talking questions that Landon has on his mind about the green industry, which is awesome today. So thanks for tuning in. You guys have a great one.